Have you ever seen a shooting star or marveled at a meteor shower? I bet if you have, you weren't thinking to yourself, oh, look at all those crumbs falling from the sky, all those leftovers. But in fact, that's what they are. And we're here to explain why this week on Spacecraft. Hi, all my space-loving friends, Craft Commander Green with you here, and in just a moment I'll be passing you over to our science officer, Mily. I'm here to start the show with one of my all-time favorite stories. This is the story of our solar system, abridged, which means I'm shortening it. 5 billion years ago, where we are, there was no Earth. There were no other planets or moons or even the sun. Instead, there was a huge cloud of stardust. We call these clouds nebula. I love that word. It's my favorite word. It means cloud in Greek. You should all try saying it. At the count of 3, say it in your most romantic Dracula voice, okay? 1, 2, 3. Nebula. I'm sure it was beautiful. All right, so there was this huge cloud of stardust, because early stars in the universe, they were incredibly huge. They cooked up elements, they exploded their star guts everywhere, leaving behind nebula. There were parts of this cloud where there was more gas and dust, so those areas had gravitational pull. One of those areas kept bringing in more gas and dust, more, until the center point of gravity was packed with atoms. They smashed into each other, fusing, igniting our sun. And when our sun was born, about 5 billion years ago, it sent out a shock wave of energy. It went whoosh. That shock wave squished, compressed the leftover gas around it, turning that gas into lint, just like the lint you might find in your dryer or on your socks. I have a lot of lint on my socks right now. So all this lint, it hardened into grains of silicate, sand. These little grains came together to make pebbles. Gravity brought pebbles together to make rocks. Rocks came together to make boulders. And eventually you had pieces that were so huge, the gravitational pull at the center pulled all the outer edges inwards, and you get a sphere. You get a planet or a moon or a dwarf planet. But there was a lot of stuff left over, crumbs. These leftovers are the asteroids and comets in our solar system. All right, it's time for me to hand you over to Science Officer Mily. She's going to talk more about asteroids and comets and meteor showers. And then afterwards, join me for our craft. We'll make some beautiful comet prints. Okay, over to you, Science Officer Mily.
Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. Here I was, nodding away. Science Officer Mily here reporting. As Craft Commander Green was saying, shooting stars and falling stars aren't actually stars at all. In fact, they're just crumbs. And I decided to demonstrate this by making one of my favorite sources of cosmic crumbs, cosmic chocolate chip cookies. Baked them myself. Shooting stars are actually pieces of dust and rock called meteoroids that break off of comets as they move across their path towards the sun, like cookie crumbs falling in behind the comets into the sky. As these crumbs from the cookie comet fall into the Earth's atmosphere, they burn up, and the trails of light that we see as they burn up are called meteors, or what we see as shooting stars. If any part of the cookie crumb or meteoroid actually survives getting through the Earth's atmosphere and lands on Earth, it's called a meteorite, and it's equally as delicious. I've done this part of the show like 5 times just so I can keep eating cookies. It was very effective. Now, asteroids are giant hunks of rock and metal in space, as we can see here, whereas comets are kind of like giant dirty snowballs made of ice, frozen gases like carbon dioxide and ammonia and methane, as well as some dust and rocks mixed in there. Like if you were trying to make a snowman and you just got a bunch of like rocks and dust and frozen gases trapped in there. Ugh. As the comet orbits the sun, the solar radiation, or the high energy light beams coming off of our star at all times, actually melt or vaporize the gas and dust inside the comet, creating this beautiful cloud behind it, or a tail, which we can see here. This image, we can see that the tail of the comet is trailing out behind it, but it can also be beside the comet or even in front of it, depending on which direction it's going relative to where the sun is. Very cool. Looks like it's gonna hit me. I usually think of the edge of our solar system being at Pluto, one of our favorite dwarf planets, or even Neptune, but in fact it stretches way, way farther than that, halfway to the nearest star, Proxima Centauri. Our solar system is actually way bigger than we often think that it is, and comets often come from the edges of our solar system, from the Oort cloud, which I think is really fun to say. Oort. Craft Commander Green likes to say nebula a lot. I really like saying Oort, because to me it sounds like a noise that a tiny alien would make, and I think that's very cute. When we were writing and preparing for this week's episode of Spacecraft, Craft Commander Green and I were very excited to talk about a comet that we thought would be visible with the naked eye in the night sky this month, the Comet of Atlas, or to be specific, C2019Y4. This comet was discovered very recently in December 2019, so around Christmas of last year, and it was thought that as it got closer towards the sun in the middle of April towards the end of May, it would be bright enough to be seen without a telescope or binoculars, just with the naked eye. So we now know that the Atlas comet is breaking apart, and because of this is rapidly dimming, so we probably won't be able to see it with our naked eye at all this month, which is quite disappointing. We thought it was going to be super cool. But there are some other very neat things that you can see in the night sky this month. The Lyra meteor shower is already happening. It started on April 16th, and the peak is on Wednesday night on the 22nd, right before dawn is the best time to see it, because the moon has gone down, but it's still nice and dark. Now, if it's a clear night, you'll be able to see up to 100 meteors an hour, which doesn't seem like that many, but for a meteor shower, that's quite a few. Now, the easiest way to see the meteor shower is to orient yourself towards the Lyra constellation, which comes up at about 10 p.m. in the northeast. And what you actually want to do is put your head towards the constellation of Lyra and then face away from it into the night sky. Just like all sorts of different experiments and mysteries that we try to solve in science, sometimes they can be a little unpredictable, and comets definitely fit into that category of unpredictable science. I hope you'll still join me in looking up at the night sky this week and try to find some shooting stars, because even though they originate from the crumbs of comets and not stars, meteoroids and meteors that we see as they pass through the atmosphere, I think are still good luck to wish on. So maybe we can all think of some wishes that we have for the world to wish on the meteor shower this week.
All right, spacecrafters, today we're going to be making some crafts inspired by comets and the night sky. So these ones are from the turn of the century, made by illustrators, but these were actually made by astronomers thousands of years ago in ancient China. Now, for these projects, we'll need some styrofoam. I'm just upcycling some here. We need scissors, a pencil, some paint and paintbrushes or a roller, and some paper. We're going to start off by making styrofoam prints. So I'm just cutting my styrofoam into pieces here. You can do rectangles or squares or circles, and each one will be a different print. So now that I have all of my pieces prepped, I can start drawing some patterns. So I'm going to use those patterns that I found that ancient Chinese astronomers made. I really love them. They're very graphic and simple to draw. So what you want to do is make sure your pencil isn't very sharp, because you don't want to poke into the styrofoam. And you draw onto the styrofoam, but you draw quite deep into the styrofoam. So you want to make some deep indentations there. And this one's cute. It looks sort of like a reindeer. Now we're going to get some paint out, and you can use acrylic or gouache. I'm using gouache here. Or you can also use print ink if you have it. It's a little bit thicker. Don't add any water. You want your paint to be kind of thick and a little bit sticky, and you're going to paint it right onto the styrofoam. So if you have a paint roller, that's great. You could use that instead. If you use a brush like I am, just make sure you don't get too much paint into those indentations. That's where the paper will show through. So I'm putting lots of paint on my print here, and now I'm going to print. So I'm just using some plain white paper, but you could use some brown paper, bag paper. That looks great, or wrapping paper. And you press, 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 and then we can reveal our print. Ta-da! And don't worry if it's imperfect like that right there. That's okay. No problem. It kind of makes it look more rustic. All right, now we're doing our second one. And I'll take this opportunity to thank those astronomers from ancient China. Their observations really helped us to start understanding what comets are. All right, let's do this guy now. So when you press down on your paper, just try to make sure that you're not sliding the print around. You want to just make sure it's really pressing down in one place. And there we have it. Okay, the next thing we're going to do, we'll paint on rocks. I love painting on rocks. I actually collect rocks to paint on, but I should mention, don't steal rocks from someone's garden. That's bad. Get your rocks from somewhere like a beach or a park where there's lots of rocks, but limit yourself. Leave some rocks for others, as my grandmother would have said. All right, so let's make some more shapes. I'm using gold paint here, which looks really nice when you tilt the rock. You can see it shine, but you could use any color you want. Again, I'm using those pictographs from ancient China. And this third one that I'm doing, I'll try with some black paint, and you can see that the rock is sort of shaped like a comet, so it worked really well. And now we have all our pieces of comet-inspired art. I also made this little cutout of a fiery shooting star. It would be a cute cake topper or something. Just put a toothpick behind it, and we have our print. All right, so now it's your turn. And don't forget, if you post your work to #spacecraftcomets for this one, or you could always send your work directly to us. The email is in the description below, and that way we could post your work at the end of an episode, like this work here, these amazing alien moonbug finger puppets made by Jules and Gilly Shinafus. Don't forget to like and subscribe our channel. We hope you enjoyed the show. Come back next week. And until then, don't forget to stay curious and stay creative.